You're listening to Dharma Junkie, #1 rated podcast in a 4-block radius. The top podcast in Pensacola for psychedelics, psychology, spirituality, and more. Dharma Junkie. Subscribe today. Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to Dharma Junkie. This is Justin Otto. I, as usual, am your host. All right, so recently I started getting in my head about this podcast and thinking I actually had to take it seriously in some way, and I was starting to take it seriously and getting really caught up in the numbers aspect of it and all the ins and outs of that, and forgetting that I started feeling like I had to do it. I have to do this podcast, and I don't have to do it. None of us have to do anything. Remember that we get to do it. We get to do everything. That job you hate, you don't have to do it. You get to do it. You could be doing anything, but apparently you're choosing to do that until you decide you want to do something else, obviously. But we get to do it. And just remember this too, that the odds of being born a human are astronomically low. You pretty much won the incarnation lottery. So no matter what happens, you've already won the game. So that's pretty cool, right? Don't lose sight of that, because I did. I did for a minute, and I had to pull my head out of my ass yet again and decide that I need to just start having fun with this thing again. So that's what I'm doing. In this episode, I had the pleasure of sitting down with fellow podcaster and biologist Gillian Tietz. Gillian hosts a podcast called Sober Powered, and it's about addiction recovery as well. It's not quite like this one. This one's a little weird. Hers is a little more straightforward. Anyway, we had a really good talk, and it was a fun conversation that I can't wait for y'all to hear. So without further ado, Gillian Tietz.
You might catch yourself sliding in and out of hallucinatory state. Just relax and enjoy. Just relax and enjoy it.
This is an experiment in mind formation. Information. Forming, controlling, operating your mind and your brain. We're using digital techniques to overload, scramble, confuse, unfocus your mind. The natural state of the brain is chaos. Chaos is beautiful.
So Gillian, how are you this evening?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. I want to thank you for being on the show, first of all. You want to tell me a little bit about your background?
Yeah. So I have a master's degree in biology. I'm a biochemist, and I'm also... Sorry, there's a thunderstorm going. I don't know if you can hear it.
Oh, yeah, I can definitely hear it.
Hopefully it doesn't carry over too much.
It'll add a nice background. It's kind of...
I've been sober for 9 months.
Okay.
And, yeah, just trying to navigate everything, I guess.
Right on. What were you, if you don't mind my asking, where were you getting sober from?
Alcohol.
Alcohol, primarily. No drug use?
No, I've never done drugs.
That's good. At least you didn't go down that road.
Yeah, I was really sheltered growing up. So never even had the opportunity to do them.
Right. Well, maybe it was in your benefit, you know?
Oh, definitely.
Especially if you have any type of an addictive personality.
Yeah, if I liked alcohol, I'm sure I would have liked other stuff.
Absolutely. So you've got a master's degree in biology?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you got to focus on addiction, right? Or now you're focusing on addiction? Is that what
now I am.
Okay. Did you kind of get into that because of your own background?
Yeah, so when I quit drinking, I wanted to understand why am I this way? Why am I different from other people? What our genetics at play, what's going on with brain chemistry. So I started learning a lot about it, really just from right when I started with sobriety. But I never took any formal classes. It's something that I do want to go back to in the future, maybe another degree or a certificate or something, depending on the price. But
right, obviously. That's always a big determining factor in pretty much anything these days.
Yeah, and I still have my student loans from
Oh yeah.
my other 2 degrees, so I can't make it any worse.
Right. No, I get that. What did you come to the conclusion of as far as the research you've been doing is on addiction? Like, what are the chemical hooks? What is the cause in the biology? What's wrong with people like us?
Yeah, so it's 50% hereditary, at least for alcohol. That's what I focus my reading on. But there's also different things that you can have going on in your brain that make it more likely that you will develop a problem with something, like different receptors. Some people, alcohol or any kind of drug just feels better for them than other people.
Right.
They can process it better than other people. And then on the other side, if you can't process alcohol very well and you get headachy and like nauseous while you're drinking, you're probably not going to drink that much.
Right.
An environment comes into play also with this, like how you grow up and what your parents were like and what you were exposed to as a kid.
Right.
So it's really 50-50 between genetics and environment. So
it's a little bit of nature and a little bit of nurture.
Yeah, it's both.
Right. Yeah. I can see that. I don't know about you, but I grew up around alcohol. My mom drank, not a lot, but she would go out with her friends and drink. And then this stepfather figure that I had in my life for a while, he was a pretty severe alcoholic and a violent one at that. But that's another story entirely. But so I kind of grew up around it, and I have my own issues I battle with. I'm a recovering heroin addict and alcoholic as well. So that's why I wanted to talk to you, because this subject like really interests me so much, just because I'm afflicted with it. Mm-hmm. And then that's pretty much what this podcast, the reason I started is like an addiction based podcast, just about recovery and addiction and things of that nature. So that's why I wanted to reach out to you and talk to you about it. So it's a little nature and a little nurture. That's really interesting. Do you think that, do you have any kind of like percentage as far as like what, like the ratio of people that are afflicted with, some sort of underlying alcohol problem or a predisposition to it? Is there any kind of statistics on that out there? Or?
That I don't know. I do know that it's estimated that 10% of kids grow up in homes with unhealthy drinking around them every day.
Right.
But I don't know like the estimation for developing it.
Right. So what prompted you to get sober?
So my drinking was always a problem from the first time that I really drank. It wasn't something that like slowly escalated or developed, which you hear about a lot. Right. And that makes more sense intuitively, that it would slowly develop and escalate over time. But mine was immediately bad, and it continued to get worse and worse and worse the longer I drank. And it started really affecting my mental health in a negative way. My depression got really bad. I developed anxiety. That was something I've never had. And then the last year of my drinking, I started struggling with suicidal thoughts when I was really drunk.
Right.
And eventually it just scared me. The idea that I could actually get drunk and do something like that became a possibility. And I haven't drank since.
That's amazing. That takes a lot of courage to like recognize it and then like put a stop to it that quickly. A lot of people can't do that. A lot of people really struggle with putting it down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of people, they will go further than that, and maybe what gets them to get sober is an unsuccessful attempt at suicide. So.
Absolutely. You said, you brought up an interesting point that I wanted to kind of touch on. You said that the alcohol made you depressed. Did you ever have any depression issues before?
Yeah, so it's been something I've struggled with since I was 10. It's always been a problem for me. Anxiety is something I've never had, but depression has always been a big struggle.
Right. Yeah. I see a lot of that with addiction. I think a lot of people, I think a lot of people use because they're depressed, and then you get into this kind of a fucked up feedback loop, where you're depressed because you drink, and you drink because you're depressed, and then that's really hard to get out of. So that's awesome that you were able to do it.
Thank you.
As far as the biology, like, what do you know about is like how how alcohol and drugs like affect the reward centers of the brain and the like the neural pathways? Like, how is, from a scientific standpoint, how would one go about rebuilding healthy neural pathways as to replace old bad habits? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as we drink, our brain chemistry gets offset. For alcohol specifically, it's a depressant. Mm-hmm. So it slows down our brain activity. So our brain will compensate so that it can maintain its set point. Right. So it'll actually decrease the amount of receptors for the like inhibitory neurotransmitters, so things that slow down brain activity. Okay. And it'll increase the amount of excitable neurotransmitters in the brain. So it'll try to bring you up to counteract the like frequent presence of alcohol. And then that's why quitting drinking cold turkey, if you're a super heavy drinker, is really dangerous, because then you have this huge amount of excitability in your brain and no more alcohol that's counteracting it. And you have trouble slowing down your own brain chemistry and the communication between your neurons, because your brain has reduced the amount of receptors that are able to do that. Okay. So that's why scary things like seizures and all that can happen. But once you do quit and alcohol is not in your brain learns to handle itself the way it did before. So it's slowly going to balance things out again. It's not just going to permanently stay in that state, but it does take time. And that's why like it creates anxiety, because you can't calm yourself down naturally. So it's why people go back to it, is because your brain is used to it. And when you take it away, it's like crazy in there.
Right. What kind of a timeline is that for that to happen? So for you to be like your brain to actually be able to start like naturally counteracting that?
Yeah. So I don't know for everything. I do know there's been a lot of study on sleep, because people who drink a lot will just sleep less than people who don't drink. Even if I drink a lot and I give myself 12 hours to sleep and you only give yourself 8, I'll still sleep less. So there's been a lot of studies on that, and they found that for up to a year into sobriety, they see improvements in the person's REM sleep and their brain activity while they sleep and the quality. So it does take a while. I think a lot of it balances out early on, but then you can continue to see benefits and progress for a year, maybe longer. Right.
Yeah, that's interesting. I yeah, for sure. I know when I was drinking, like, it definitely affects your sleep patterns. You'd be lucky to get like 3 bad hours of sleep and then wake up and then be awake for another hour and a half, 2 hours, and then be able to fall back asleep for maybe an hour. Yeah, it was horrible.
Yeah, I actually wouldn't let myself sleep in the last year of my drinking. I would wake up after like 2 or 3 hours with that like jolt when the alcohol starts to wear off.
God, I hate that.
Yeah, that was the worst. And then I would just shame myself for the whole night, and I would never allow myself to go back to sleep. That was when all those scary thoughts started happening.
It's like severe self-flagellation.
Yep, exactly. So I went nuts at the end because I was so sleep deprived. Wow. And it lasted for like a year off and on that I wasn't letting myself sleep.
Oh, damn. That's intense. A year? Jeez. Yeah. Even as an alcoholic, gotta have sleep. You gotta try to sleep anyway.
Yeah. Well, I would sleep in the morning and I would sleep at the beginning of the night, but it was awful. Yeah. It was so miserable.
Yeah.
It seemed fun at the time, right?
It
seemed like
seemed
a good
worth it
idea.
every time.
Yeah, it seemed like a good idea. It's like, and it seemed like every time it's like, oh, it'll be different this time.
Yep. Yeah, I'm not going to drink that much this time.
I'm only
going
gonna
to
have a couple.
moderate.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a couple. That'd be okay. I can handle that. I can handle a couple.
I saw a funny meme a couple days ago, and it was like the brain talking to the person, and it said, just have one. And then the next thing was, just have 3. And then the one after that was, just have 50.
Right.
And that's how it is.
What do they say in AA? I think it's like one's too many and a million's not enough.
Yep.
I think that's it. Do you go to any kind of meetings or go to the rooms or anything like that? Are you involved in any kind of recovery groups or anything of that nature?
I do groups on Facebook for my immediate area, so people that I could actually see in person,
right.
And then people all around the world. I haven't tried official meetings. I've always been really scared, which they probably would have benefited me, and it's something that I do want to try because I think it's an amazing community that you find there, and everyone's just like you, and I could meet sober friends to hang out with in real life.
Right.
So I do want to try.
Yeah. I've found I tried the 12 step thing for a while, and it was okay. Like, there's some really good people in there. I started going to Buddhist based recovery meetings.
Is that the Dharma one, or are they Refuge now?
Refuge Recovery. Yeah. It was. They changed names, but I think it might even be something different now. I think they may be changing the name again. I've heard some rumblings of that. I'm not sure. I think there was some fallout with Noah Levine, the guy that started some sort of sexual accusation. I don't know. It's
yep.
You can't get away from that anymore. So I'm sure everybody's done something wrong. But anyway, I think he's catching some flashback from some bad decision in the past, I'm sure. But yeah, I started going to the refuge meetings, and I mean, I was still going to 12-step meetings as well, but I really found a really good community within refuge, and just the Buddhism in general. I've always kind of dabbled in Eastern philosophies, but going into recovery was kind of a catalyst for me to really, really start taking it seriously, So it's something I highly recommend if you do ever want to start looking into meetings or anything. Refuge is pretty amazing, and it's a super great community of people.
That's good. Yeah, the 12-step, it feels very official and intimidating. I think that's been a barrier for me as well. It's
just very rigid. And I feel like the refuge meetings are a little bit more relaxed.
That's good to know.
I mean, they do a 20-minute meditation every meeting. It's pretty laid back.
I like that.
Yeah, and I find Buddhists to just be pretty laid back people in general. I've got a lot of friends that are Buddhists, so I try to surround myself with good people. So what do you do when you're not drinking?
Yeah, so when I quit, I was faced with all of this free time. I actually added it up one day, the time between drinking and recovering from drinking. And it was basically a second full-time job that I was working.
Yeah.
So it was really overwhelming. I thought that life was going to just be boring forever. And I'm really finding that that's not the case at all. It was actually really boring before. And so now I go to the gym consistently.
Right.
And I don't skip because I don't feel well. So I lift and I podcast. That's something I would have never done. I write.
Do you have your own podcast?
Yeah, I do.
What's the name of that?
It's called Sober Powered.
Oh, nice. Awesome. I didn't even know that when we first started talking. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, how long have you been doing that?
2 months.
2 months? Cool. But what got you into doing that? Just all the free time?
Yeah. I had been learning so much, and I was telling people about it, but I could only tell, one person at a time. And I felt like everything I was learning was helpful. So I figured that was the best way. And I just like figured it out one day.
Yeah.
And it's been really fun. I love talking to other podcasters, and
Right.
the whole community is really cool. And yeah, I've enjoyed it.
Yeah. It was funny when we were kind of chatting on Facebook, setting all this up. You were like, you had mentioned that some other podcasters don't like doing video. I didn't know that was a thing. I thought most people like having face-to-face conversations.
Yeah, it was weird for me because I just would sit down and expect that we're doing
Right.
video, and most of them said that it's like distracting, or they find they just have better conversations without video. I disagree, but
I tend to disagree as well. Like if I'm doing a Zoom meeting like this, I try to do everything, face to face.
Yeah.
We could easily just do the audio and it would save room on my hard drive. But I feel like this just works better. I feel like it's more natural.
Yeah, exactly. You're not just a random voice coming
Right.
out of my computer.
Right. Exactly. It seems so awkward to me. So that's cool. So you podcast, and what else do you do?
I lift, I write, I read a lot. I clean my house now. I'm making it sound so boring.
No. You basically just described my day. Like,
Yeah.
quite literally. Like, it's funny. I had Amy Dresner on the show a couple episodes ago, and
I love her.
we had this. We're talking about. She was saying that that like addicts go either hard one way or the other. They're either drinking all the time or they're like vegans and going to the gym constantly. There's no in between.
Yeah, I see posts in Facebook communities, and the person's always like, "Why are you all so obsessed with the gym?"
It's a fact.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure why. I'd like to look into that. Maybe we should look into the science on that. Why do addicts tend to go towards physical exercise after getting into recovery?
Yeah, that's actually something I should learn about, because it's probably endorphin related.
It absolutely has to.
Yeah.
I'm sure that has a lot to do with it, because I don't know about you, but when I go to the gym, I feel like $1 million afterwards.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, I was actually lifting while I was drinking
Oh yeah, me too.
at like 5:30 in the morning still. And the nights that I wouldn't let myself sleep, I would always skip that day. But all the other days I would go, and I actually like plateaued in strength after a certain amount of time. And no matter what I did, I could never improve. And then I quit drinking, and everything I was so strong, like immediately. It was really nice.
It's like automatically. That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, there's so many. I try to weigh everything from a scientific standpoint. Like, just really look at it like, okay, is this going to be beneficial for me, or is this going to affect me or others in a negative way? If it's going to be beneficial for me, chances are I'm going to do it. If it's going to be negative for either myself or others, whatever whatever the outcome of that is going to be, if it's going to be negative, probably shouldn't do that. And alcohol, like every time, it's just never beneficial. And I was talking with a friend of mine just the other day about it, and the strange thing about it is like it's just so celebrated and glorified in Western culture. Like it's just it's what the world does. It's like, if you have a bad day, have a drink. If you have a good day, have a drink. Going to a wedding, have a drink. Someone died, have a drink. Like, it's no matter what it is, you're going to attach we should drink over it. Like, and that just seems so counterintuitive to me. I just don't get it. It's so strange. Just it almost it almost brings out the weird conspiracy theorist in me at times, and it's like, is there some sort of evil, sinister plot to keep people drunk and complacent? Like, who knows?
Slow down our progress.
Right. Stop us from thinking.
Yeah, I think if I didn't drink at all, or if we, even as a society, didn't drink, like, what could we accomplish? I'd probably have, an MD at this point, maybe an MD, PhD,
Right.
like, who knows even.
Yeah, absolutely.
But maybe I'd be famous. Like, I would have had so much time to do stuff. And I think about that a lot. Like, what could we as a species accomplish if we didn't devote so much time to drinking? And that's why it makes it so hard to quit, because it's just a thing. Like I start a new job tomorrow, and already just on my interview for this job, they were talking about drinking and like happy hours and going out for drinks. And it's like, yeah, happy hours, woohoo. But, I'll have a water or like a mocktail or whatever. But yeah, it's so normal. Like I didn't expect people to talk about drinking on like a job interview. But
right. Yeah. That's kind of weird. Have you noticed like the stigma towards people that don't drink? Like if you're in a situation with people that drink and you don't order a drink, people almost it seems like people look down on you.
I get a lot of crap.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just curious if that was just me. I knew it wasn't. But,
nope.
Yeah. That seems to be a pretty universal thing. It's almost like we get shamed for being sober. It's kind of
it's annoying.
Mind blowing as well.
When drinking me would run into someone who didn't drink, I would be in awe, and I'd be like, wow, good for you. You don't drink?
Yeah.
You're amazing. Like, how do you do that? But for me, everybody, they're like, you're still not drinking? Like why? How long are you doing this sober thing? Like, I don't understand.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah. Why can't you just have one?
Because I can't. Because that's impossible. One, I can't even count to one. I've got to at least go to like 5 or 6.
Yep. One puts my life at risk. So.
Absolutely. First of all, who just has one?
My husband.
Oh, good.
Yep.
That's awesome.
He's that guy.
That's amazing. See, and there are those people out there that can do that. More power to them. That's awesome. Yeah. I wish that my chemistry was such that I could be one of those people, but I'm just fucking not. I can't do it. I have tried repeatedly and failed every time. Without fail, if I have one drink, I'm going to have a few, and then I'm going to make an ass of myself, and I'm going to feel embarrassed the next day and probably have hurt someone's feelings and maybe gotten arrested. Who knows? So yeah, it's better to just not even have one.
Yeah, and it feels cool. I mean, we're doing
it's kind of empowering.
Yeah, most people can't do this. Like, not drinking ever, that's hard.
Yeah, it's definitely a mind over matter thing. Mm-hmm. Well, just like with going to the gym, especially on the days where you don't want to, because it's so easy to make excuses and say, "Oh, well, I'm not feeling good. I'm not gonna like." But those are the days that you probably should go. Mm-hmm. I think the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people in general is pushing through that uncomfortable feeling and just getting it done anyway, no matter what it is. Mm-hmm. Like you stop making excuses for yourself and you just hold yourself accountable and you go, you know what? Well, I don't care. I'm just going to do it anyway. I've made this promise to myself to go to the gym X amount of days a week, and I'm sticking to it no matter what.
Yeah, I don't know if you had a similar experience. I'm sure most people have, but when I was drinking, I broke every single promise that I ever tried to make to myself, like that, the diet is going to start on Monday. Then by Monday it's like, oh, well, didn't mean that. And it got to the point where I would make these promises in my head. And as I'm not even done like formulating the thought, and I'm thinking like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, right. Like I know I'm full of shit when I'm saying this. we're so bad. Alcohol people with alcohol problems are so bad about that. There's no accountability with an alcoholic, like none, like zero. They will tell you one thing and then 20 minutes later be doing the exact opposite. Like, what the fuck happened? It was like 20 minutes ago. You kidding me? Did we just talk about Jesus, man? No, it's frustrating at times. But I think I get so frustrated. I don't know about you, but I get very frustrated by heavy drinkers now. It's just, and I think it's because I see myself in them. I think that's really what it is. I see myself in them, and I see the traits of myself that I'm still working very hard at kind of accepting but just putting behind me. It's not like I don't hate those parts of myself, that alcoholic part of myself. I feel sorry for that guy. I feel, ultimately I just feel bad for him because he was super depressed and he didn't know how to handle it. And I think that's really what it boils down to is just, like with drugs are the same thing. I think it's just people are looking for an escape. I think people are unhappy and this is just a quick Band-Aid. Well, if I do this, then I'll feel good for a little while, until you don't, and then you feel worse. And
then you do it again.
Then you do it. Well, you got to do it again because that's how you're going to feel good. It's the only way you can.
Yep.
It's the only way you know how to feel good because at the time you're just ignorant. You just don't know any better, until you figure it out. And then you're like, oh, what am I doing?
Yeah. And when I see heavy drinkers, I feel the same way. I feel very sad because I do see myself in them. Like when we could gather in groups and go to restaurants and the bar scene was a thing.
Right.
You can just see it, and you can see the people that are like you, like people that are in my circle that are like me. It's hard to be around sometimes.
Right.
I just want to rescue them. Like, come be sober.
It doesn't even have to be like a real shit show of a situation for me either. Like it can just be people just out drinking a lot. Like they could be handling it perfectly fine, like in ways that I never could. But still, it's like because whether you're a crazy asshole when you drink or you're completely laid back, there's always, I don't know, alcohol is very unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
People that drink are very unpredictable. And I've been in situations that seemed fine on the surface and then erupted into some horrible thing 5 seconds later, And like, as someone who doesn't drink anymore, like I can't even hang out with people that drink because of the potential for something to happen, because like I said, it's just people are very unpredictable to begin with. And then you throw alcohol on top of that and it makes it 1,000 times worse, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And sometimes I will watch reality TV. It's a shameful, guilty pleasure, but especially like in quarantine, my husband and I watched a couple of the bad ones, but you can just see even on reality TV, the drunk fights that occur. Like everybody's partying, and then as they're drinking, all of a sudden, it's like everyone's in a fight. And the girls are freaking out, and they're yelling at their guys, and we don't even know what they're mad about. And like the couples and the friends, and it's crazy, and it's really sad when you think about it.
It is. It's hard to watch.
Yeah.
That's why thankfully we don't have, there's not a whole lot of places to go right now, but even if there was, I wouldn't be going there anyway. I don't know. I have to stay away from that kind of lifestyle. I played music on the road for a while, like a few years, and primarily played in bars where, I would get like a free bar tab along with my pay. And then I've got people are buying me drinks and shit. And I've seen so much crazy shit go to, like, I got my front teeth knocked out in a bar fight one time.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, like just batshit insanity, So it's just best for me to, even if I'm not drinking, I stay away from bars just in general.
Were you upset about it at the time, or you didn't like realize the magnitude of what happened?
I mean, in the heat of the moment, I was pretty drunk at the time, and I think that just like the sheer adrenaline of being in the fight at the moment, like overrid the pain. But then when I noticed what happened, I was pretty emotional about it. But I got implants and got it fixed. I mean, $10,000 later, it was worth that fucking night of drinking, right?
Yeah, that's actually a fear, or an old fear of mine. I was always afraid something bad was going to happen to me. I would create accidents in my head that would happen. And like my mother-in-law has a lot of summertime parties with a fire pit. And I would always create this story that drunk me falls in the fire. Yeah, and I've seen it. Oh my God. I still would go and drink though and sit. I would scooch my chair back, but I would still go sit by the fire pit, even though I had that fear.
You're like, I know I could fall in the fire and burn to death, but it's not worth not drinking over.
Yeah, I don't want to miss out on the party.
Right. I love the rationalization of an addict. You can rationalize anything.
Mm-hmm. Like, and all the mornings. mornings you wake up and you're like, never again.
Yeah,
and then by
until
3
like
p.m.
7:00. Yeah. Until somebody calls me and goes, "Hey, you want to go get a beer?" I'm like, "Yeah, fuck, I don't have anything else going on."
Yeah, I guess I do. You're right.
Yeah, absolutely. Why didn't you call me sooner? I've been fighting this hangover all day. Were you one of those drinkers that would drink to alleviate last night's? Were you one of the hair of the dog drinkers?
I tried that a couple times.
Yeah, it didn't work.
It doesn't work that well.
Nah. They never worked for me. I mean, see, I was never. I'm definitely an alcoholic. Like as far as like the textbook definition of an alcoholic, but I wasn't one of those. Like I didn't need it. You know what I mean? Like daily. Like I would. There'd be decent stretches where I wouldn't drink, but then there would be 2 weeks where I would just binge drink every day, not all day. But, at night, like most Americans do, I'd get off work and I'd go and I'd have, get some drinks. And it's just like we were saying, it's just what people do. And it's weird, like a few years ago, water was cheaper or beer was cheaper than water. Like you could get a bottle of beer cheaper than you can buy a bottle of water. Like that seemed fucked up. Something about that seems a little messed up considering it takes water to make the beer. So, and then there's, extra ingredients. Like how can this cost less to produce than just, you know what I mean? That's what I think like drags me down that rabbit hole of like, what's really going on here? Like, why is this available and, benign things like marijuana or not, like something that's pretty harmless. I know you don't have any experience with marijuana, but
I've done it like twice, but it doesn't
it wasn't
do
for you.
anything for me. It just makes me sleepy.
See, that's sometimes that's all I need.
Yeah. Sometimes that's what you want.
I don't smoke anymore, but I used to. But like I said, I'm trying to do the completely sober thing. I mean, I guess I still do the nicotine and of course caffeine. That's a hard one to put down. I find myself probably use way too much. I probably have too much caffeine a day. I'm not even sure what a healthy level of caffeine is, but I'm definitely over whatever it is.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know if there's actually
there's got to be like a cutoff. There's got to be like a cutoff, right? There's got to be like an LD 50 on caffeine.
Definitely. Yeah, your heart.
I'm not sure what it is. Is that I know I probably take in way too much caffeine a day. I drink a lot of coffee, and my thing lately has been those energy drinks, like all the really crazy Bang energy drinks and Rain and all this. As long as they've got 0 calories, because I got to go to the gym and I got
gotta look good.
Right. I got to look good to sit at my house. For podcasting, for videos that I don't use. I got to look good for these interviews that I don't use the videos on. I just started doing jujitsu. I say that I've been to one fucking class, but I'm going to start going back. I'm trying to balance everything out right now because I've got a like super busy schedule between like working full time and then doing the podcast, and then I've got I've got my iron and a lot of fires, so to speak, and so I'm trying to, fit it into my schedule. But that was really fun. It's super, super exhilarating, like an adrenaline rush, definitely. And it was pretty cool because like, it's weird. You work like stabilizer muscles that you don't normally, just by lifting, you don't normally hit. Like there's definitely a different type of fitness involved in that than there is just going to the gym. And you notice it like the day after, like, ooh, that's kind of like sore right there. Like that hasn't been sore and maybe ever, like just weird connective tissues, and it's hard to explain.
I think I did 2 or 3 months of jiu-jitsu.
Oh, nice.
I actually did it. It was a moderation strategy was to start jiu-jitsu because the classes were in the evening, and I was a daily drinker. So I thought, if you go to jiu-jitsu, you can't drink while you're there.
Right.
So it was really a moderation strategy.
It's like a version therapy.
Yeah, some days I'd go like hungover, and it's very, very challenging.
I can't even imagine trying to roll with somebody hungover. It's got to be terrible.
Yeah, and I was really scared. I didn't play like sports or do much physical stuff when I was a kid.
Mm.
So I was scared. Like I was scared to do the rolls. I was scared to work with other people and drill moves. I was scared they were going to hurt me. I was scared to fall.
Right.
So I was scared of everything, basically. But I did like it. I learned how to tie my belt really well. So that was fun.
Yeah, it's a handy life skill right there. You tie this cloth belt really well. It is fun though, and I don't know, it's kind of like the gym, but it's different. Like I feel like you get like a completely different workout from it, you know?
Yeah, and I think it's cool in sobriety, especially to just try new things because it's really easy. I feel like I've moved into stage 2 of sobriety, like where my life doesn't suck anymore.
Oh, yeah. I'm
and I'm
familiar
not
with that
trying
stage.
it's hard. I didn't expect it. I was just feeling really low all the time. And then I put it together, but now I need to take things to the next level, I guess. But trying new things is, I think, the way to do it, and having new adventures, and whenever we can travel,
Right.
traveling and not ruining it with drinking.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've trying new things. That's such a huge thing, you know. It's like just taking up hobbies and interests. Like figure out what you're into and pursue it and get good at it. That's anybody who's ever done anything sucked at it the first time they did it. You know, so like there's people have that, and I'm guilty of it too. They compare themselves to other people a lot, you know, and that prevents them from really stepping out of that comfort zone because they're like, well, this person's better than me. It's like, yeah, but they were just as shitty as you, or if not shittier, when they first started doing it. They, through pure repetition and practice, is the only way to get better at something. But find something you're passionate about and do it, and watch your fucking life change. Like really, it's crazy. But I just love seeing people get sober, man. Like, especially people who, have really struggled with it. And it's been a real problem for it because, like I said, there's people like your husband who can have a beer.
Jerks.
And then there's people like me that have to have like 10 beers.
Yep.
No. But,
yeah. I was always jealous of them. Sometimes he doesn't even finish that one beer. He's that responsible.
That's good. That's good.
I have other friends who choose to drink non-alcoholic beers sometimes,
right?
And then other times they'll drink a normal beer, and it's like, how do you do that?
Oh yeah. See, I tried this thing for a while. I was like, okay, well, I'll have a drink, and then in between the drink, I'll have a water.
Yep.
And then that worked for a little bit, but then then it didn't.
It worked for like maybe an hour or two.
Right, exactly. I wasn't going to say it worked for any like real length of time. It worked for the first couple drinks.
Were you someone who was obsessed with moderation in your journey? Like always trying to figure out how to do it?
Oh no, I just didn't give a shit. I mean, there were those times where when I really realized that I had a problem, and I was like, okay, well, I need to stop drinking. Eventually those thoughts would creep back in where it's like, well, you can have just one. Or you can have two. You can handle a couple drinks. What's the problem with a couple drinks? It's just 2 drinks. But you know how that works. Like it's never just 2 drinks.
No,
it's not for me anyway. Like I said, if I was having 1 or 2, I'd probably have 5 or 6 or more. It was just a real bad scene, real shit show. I'm not a good drunk either. I don't process alcohol very well. And just a real shithead when I drink. I'm one of those people. I'm not a happy drunk. I'll probably cry and fucking get mad, and we might fight about some shit. That's me when I drink.
I used to be really emotional and sensitive.
Oh yeah.
And my husband, when he drank a lot more when I was drinking, we were like drinking buddies. He would get really impatient when he would drink a lot, and I would get really sensitive. So you just put that together, and that's a really good time.
I was about to say, this sounds like a wonderful combination.
Yeah, so we had a lot of just stupid drunk fights, and now like the same thing will happen, and either I won't take any offense to it because it's whatever, or if I do, we can talk about it for like 5 seconds and move on with our lives.
Right.
But before, it would ruin the night, and then it would ruin the whole like next morning, and it's exhausting being like that.
And yeah, when you're drunk, all it takes is that one statement
Yep.
to ruin your entire night and put you in that downward spiral. And then it's just, then you start drinking more, and then it just gets progressive. And like I said, you get in that feedback loop, and it's just ugly, man.
Yeah, I used to drink at people a lot.
Oh yeah,
which is so bad.
Yeah. I'm guilty of that. For sure, I'm guilty of that. Ugh.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I spent my entire second marriage drunk. We're not together anymore. Thank God. But looking back, I was like, oh, what a terrible decision that was. I mean, there was a lot of terrible decisions. I mean, let's be honest. I was probably drunk for years. Most of my 20s and the beginning of my 30s for sure. And then I stopped drinking when I started using heroin. That's funny. That's a funny story. I quit drinking like pretty much cold turkey when I started using opiates.
So back in the late 1800s, they actually used morphine as a treatment for alcohol addiction because they thought that they thought alcoholism was incurable, and they thought if they switched the person over to morphine, then it would be less damaging to society and to other people. So they thought it was the lesser evil.
That's interesting that you bring that up because that's actually not too far off base. Have you ever seen the Nut Harm Index?
No.
Professor David Nutt in the UK did a study, several different drugs and alcohol to see on a personal level and a societal level, which was the least harmful and which was the most harmful. At the very least harmful to others, like society and to yourself, is psilocybin, mushrooms, strangely enough. Now at the opposite end of the spectrum, the most harmful thing to society and yourself is alcohol. And directly behind that is heroin. But number one is alcohol, like the worst thing you can do for yourself or others.
I think I've seen that as a graph.
Yeah, that's
it's like two different colors. Yeah,
right.
I have seen that.
But yeah, so they weren't too far off base because technically alcohol is worse for you than opiates. But I don't recommend either of them. We were talking just the other day about speaking of doctors recommending things to get off of alcohol, the studies that they did in the 50s with LSD. Did you find out anything interesting about that you hadn't heard before?
I hadn't heard any of it before, actually. So just the whole thing was very interesting to read about. I didn't know that was even an avenue of treatment. I thought that was just a whole different thing that had nothing to do with alcohol at all. And yeah, some of it is really promising, and some patient feedback is very positive for any psychedelic treatment. I've read about a couple. Yeah,
there's a clinical trials going on right now with MDMA and psilocybin, and the ketamine is already available for depression. And psychedelics are, I think, a lot of the stigma that's been on them, in the past is being taken away from them. Psychedelics have been used for thousands of years. They predate written history, and for them to be illegal is batshit fucking insane, especially considering the benefits that they potentially have, for people as far as treatment for, just a host of different things from anxiety to PTSD to depression to addiction, and not just addiction to alcohol, but smoking cessation, all types of that. I mean, they're doing clinical trials for many different reasons, and MAPS is behind a lot of that, the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies. They do a lot of really good work if you haven't heard of them. But it's hopeful that, they're actually starting to open up some clinical trials, and there's more dialogue about it now, which is one of the reasons I like to talk about psychedelics so much on my podcast, is because I think the more we talk about it, the more we take the taboo away from it.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Yeah,
my
I actually,
that's my hope anyway.
yeah, I think it's going away now that more researchers are caring about it. I read a
Right.
really cool study with cancer patients who,
Oh yeah, in
do you
Canada.
know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
They had a really negative outlook and serious depression, and through treatment, it helped them a lot. And it helped them, I think they followed them for 6 months after. I can't remember the exact details, but they saw that it helped take away their fears.
Right. Yeah. It kind of alleviates the fear of death,
Yeah.
or it doesn't alleviate the fear of death, but it kind of puts you at peace with it. I think was the point
Yep.
of the study.
Hmm.
And I think it was in they just pretty sure they just enacted something in Canada to make psilocybin available for, I think, if we're talking about the same thing, for terminal cancer patients. So that's really awesome. Which that hits close to home for me. I actually am a cancer survivor. I had cancer when I was a kid, so
Oh, wow.
it kind of all ties together for me. So, but so I'm hopeful that something like that will happen in the U.S. I'm sure it's going to be much further down the road, but just in the past few years, psilocybin was decriminalized in Denver, and Oakland has made all plant-based psychedelics decriminalized. So from like ayahuasca, DMT, to peyote, psilocybin mushrooms. So things are looking up in that direction. And when I was a kid, I used psychedelics as like a like for fun, obviously, like, oh, it'll be a great time, we'll have fun with it. And it wasn't until I was older, like in my 20s or so, that I kind of figured out what they're really for. It's like, oh, this is like a really spiritual thing. Like if it's done right in the right setting, and you're not just taking it to be a dipshit, it can be really beneficial for you. So,
Yeah, and if alcohol is so accepted, then
right. Yeah, exactly. If alcohol is so widely accepted and glorified, not even accepted, but glorified,
yeah.
like how many movies are based purely on alcohol, like Animal House or any college movie, there's whole TV shows about drinking. Like Cheers was based in a bar. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is based in a bar. Like so many things are just based purely around alcohol. And it's like, what would the world be like if we just removed that one factor? Like if we just took that away and like just say it didn't exist, like not take it away from people, like enact a new prohibition, because people would definitely lose their shit over that. But just like hypothetically, just say we could snap our fingers and just make it never exist. What would the world look like?
Yeah, I think that's just a really cool thing to talk about and think about, because it's so I can't speak. It's so disruptive to everybody, and it's just so normal and glorified and cool. And I remember when this whole virus thing started, in a sober group, there was someone from South Africa, and they were talking about how they had to get sober because South Africa banned alcohol, like no more alcohol, guys.
Oh, wow.
And it was because half of their emergency room visits were alcohol related. So they wanted to free up doctors' time to help people who were sick.
Right.
So they banned alcohol for a while, and I'm sure everybody freaked out. I can't even imagine what would happen here.
Oh, yeah.
I would be freaking out if I was still drinking during this quarantine. Oh my God, that would be such a mess.
Yeah, I can't even imagine, like, trying to get through this whole time we're going through right now and still being a heavy drinker. It just doesn't seem like, I don't think I'd be okay with things.
No.
Like, being sober really helps you just kind of just accept things as they are. And, I'm of the opinion that like all depression stems from like negative thinking about the past, like regrets of the past. That's where depression comes from. And anxiety is just worry about the future. But if you, like I said, I'm a Buddhist, so I do a lot of mindfulness meditation and try to, be mindful. I know that's a big buzzword these days. I've been trying to do it for a long time before it was cool. Yeah. I'm Buddhism hipster. Hooray. But like if you could just stay in the moment, then depression and anxiety aren't really too big of issues for you. And that's really hard to do when you're drunk.
Yeah. Did you struggle with memories when you quit? Like regrets and reflecting on just stupid, shameful things you did?
Yeah, for a little while. I beat myself up about a lot of things for a while. But I eventually had to come to the conclusion where it's like, I can't go back and change any of it. There's nothing I can do. That's what happened. And that person that did that at the time or was doing whatever, that person wasn't me. It was a part of me, but it's not me. And like I said, ultimately I had to just accept that part of myself and even try to love that part of myself, because it ultimately is just something's fucked up in there. You know what I mean? Like something was eating away at me that made me want to drink. There was something inside of me that I wasn't able to cope with without some sort of chemical crutch. So only, just by really, really just doing a lot of self-work, was I able to get through those feelings. But yeah, I beat myself up for a long time about a lot of stuff, but it's not productive. I mean, like I said, I can't change any of it. Mm-hmm. I can take the action right now to make sure I don't drink right now, to make sure I don't ever have to worry about that kind of shit again.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's all we can do, right? The future never comes. The past is gone. So just make that next right decision and we should be good. That's the hope anyway. So
yeah,
where can people find your podcast at? Are you like pretty much available everywhere? Do you have a website or?
Yeah, I'm available everywhere.
Okay.
My website is also Sober Powered. My Instagram is Sober Powered. So
okay. Well, I will definitely put links and everything in the liner notes of this episode.
Thank you.
It's been amazing talking to you. I hope you continue your path down the road of sobriety. I hope you don't get led astray. But as my meditation teachers told me before, it's like relapse is always an option. It's like, yeah, nah. But we try not to beat ourselves up about things like that. So
yeah.
But it's been fun talking to you. Thank you so much. And you have a wonderful evening.
You too.
Thanks again to Gillian for being on the show. This has been Dharma Junkie. If you want to get in touch with Gillian, all of her contact info will be in the liner notes of the episode, available on my webpage, dharmajunkiepodcast.com. Thanks again for listening. Please, if you enjoy the show, rate, review it, subscribe to it, write the name of it down on a piece of paper and burn it in effigy. I don't care at this point. Anyway, I love you all. Namaste. Sounds like Cronenberg's asshole in here.